Hello everyone, my name is Michael and I'm speaking to you from the Verse. Now if you're not sure what the Verse is, I encourage you to go to my website at rewritingtheverse.com, and there you can find out all the details of what I'm aware of about the Verse. And while you're there, you can check out the updates, which include some written updates, and all the YouTube channel videos are on there as well. I also talk about on there my abilities to do past life regressions and rewrites. So if you're interested at all in getting a private rewrite or for a group, I am able to do those. So please go check that out. So this video is specific to the upcoming January 12th Saturn and Pluto conjunction. Now this is the third video I'm putting out this week regarding the 3 days of January 10th, 11th, and 12th. We have three major things happening during those 3 days. I've already done a video for the January 10th new moon and lunar eclipse, and then on the 11th there is the 1/11 portal, and then January 12th is when the conjunction is meant to happen. Three major events happening in a very short amount of time, and this is why I was called to do a video for each one of them. And my videos are specific to conducting a past life regression that will, by rewriting it and healing it, will help lift the overall collective energetically so we can pass through these portals at as high a vibration as we can. And because I have seen that the twin flame and divine masculine and divine feminine energies seem to be directly connected to these vibrational lifts, I have specifically focused on that collective and a timeline that is related to twin flame energies to help us through these portals. So I've done that for all three of them, this being the third one for this upcoming weekend anyway. But I've done some prior to that as well for some of the earlier portals. And at this point, I believe I'm going to keep doing this since, it's needed for one thing. And I have a passion for both things, past life regressions and rewrites and the twin flame journey. So that's what I will be doing and sharing during this video, is the past life regression I did tonight, specifically for the upcoming Saturn-Pluto conjunction on January 12th. And I asked my guides to choose a past life related to twin flames that will best maybe explain the energy of this upcoming portal, but also whatever it is that we need to heal to have us powerfully move through it. Today is, what is today? January 7th, and actually it may be after midnight, so it's probably the 8th now. Anyway, and I can tell you I am already feeling the power of these upcoming portals this following weekend. It's already heavy energetically in a lot of ways. World events happening even tonight, so another breaking news situation. A lot of big things coming to the surface right now, and I believe what I will share tonight actually is, it's very much connected to the energy of what's happening this week, and I'll explain more as I go along. So when I do a past life regression, again, I look at the highlights of what they're showing me, but then at the end, I ask where I can intervene and rewrite it to the point where it has a higher level outcome. Now, I have already looked to see what the rewrite is, so I have a good idea of how that's going to go, but I have not formally put it in place yet. I find that I enjoy actually doing it live on here, so you can actually go through the experience with me. I know I always feel a lot of energetic shifts when I do those at the end, and I hope that at some level you're feeling that too whenever you watch this. So for now, I think I'll go ahead and get started with the past life regression and share what I saw. So when I do past life regressions, the first thing I ask is how far back are we looking at? And they said that this one is set approximately 1900 BC. So almost 4,000 years ago. And then when I asked specifically where, they were very specific in this one. We're talking about the Valley of the Kings in Egypt, specifically in that spot. Very specific. I don't always get it that specific, but that's where this main part of this anyway takes place. So that's where we're looking at and when we're looking at. So the first thing they show me is 3 people riding 3 camels across a desert, all in single file. The first person is, well, definitely the camels have at least, yeah, all 3 of them, but especially the one in front. I don't know what you call it. I guess it's like a saddle for a camel, basically. And that that front person is sitting on this kind of saddle thing on top, and by the physical build of the person, I could tell it was female. So it's a woman, even though she's wearing pretty much all white clothes and has definitely the whatever around her head and around her face, where all you can really see are the eyes, her brown eyes, but it was clear that she was a female from the beginning. And the 2 men behind her, yes, they're escorts in a way. But what they told me very quickly, or showed me, is that this woman is a belly dancer. And she is actually considered like a celebrity belly dancer. Like she's like the best around, basically. And so the guys behind her, yes, they're there for protection too, but they are also the ones that play the instruments, you know, the background music for her dancing. So they're kind of like, in a way, a band, right? And they're on their way to their next big gig, I guess. And they're riding their camels across the desert. So where they are headed is the Valley of the Kings. And I understand they've actually been there several times in earlier years, because they're on their way to an annual well, it's like a ceremony that is done there deep in the canyon of the Valley of the Kings. So this is not their first time being there. They've been there several times as like guest performers for this event. And so once again, they're headed that way. I think that's all I pretty much saw in the desert in the background that I got. But this woman was very highly regarded, considered a celebrity, and had been doing it for several years, I guess. So ultimately, we end up seeing her and her band making it into the Valley of the Kings Canyon area, and there's already a lot of tents set up because this is a huge event. A huge event that actually involves the Pharaoh. The Pharaoh leaves whatever palace situation and travels specifically for this. And so she knows he's going to be there, and a lot of other people, because it's definitely the people that are going to be there are going to be like the high society, court level people. Whatever people work pretty closely in the government or whatever right there will be there, as well as a lot of just people from the outside of that group are welcome to come there too, pitch their tents and be a part in the background. They're the farthest out in the crowd, but they're able to be there too to help celebrate this. This is some sort of there is a blood sacrifice. They bring a goat with them in a cage, and that is a big part, like kind of the finale part of the overall ceremony, is the blood sacrifice to the gods for whatever purpose it is, but it's an annual thing that they do. So what I'm being reminded of right now is to share with you that even though well, who knows? They may have been aware of some sort of an alignment like the Saturn Pluto conjunct event. Who knows? Maybe they did really know that that was happening, and how it is a fairly rare event. My understanding is it's like 36, 37 years in between this alignment in our time. So that's not very common, or not very, well, it's rare, right? Compared to a lot of other alignments. So even if they did not know about this alignment formally, what I've been told is this is the time and the energy that they were within at that time, if that makes sense. The same energy we're feeling from this upcoming conjunction, they were feeling the same thing. So we're in the same energy, only almost 4,000 years later. So all this is significant. Again, there's no accident why this one is being brought in to be viewed and healed when we're aligned with the same kind of energy right now. It's playing out on our planet again. And I think some of the crazy stuff that's happening this week in the news is probably in part due to this alignment, and maybe the other 2 days that I already shared about of the weekend that also power packed. This is a transformative week from many different levels. So I already feel the energy ramping up myself, and I think we're going to feel that even several days after those main 3 days are complete. And there's more stuff coming later in the month, but for right now, I'm focused on this weekend. Okay. So she and her band are riding their camels into all these tents and everything that are lined up as people have already been arriving, and because the main event isn't until the next day, so people are getting there and they'll celebrate and stuff that evening. She's actually going to perform that evening. Yeah, but people are still arriving. She's happy to see, though, that it's clear that the Pharaoh is already there. His tent set up, people milling around his tent. She knows that he's there. She's excited. They've met many times before. And as usual, her tent is set up right next to his. Because even though they met many years earlier, I got that they had known each other at least 7 years. And that it was at one of her performances that he first met her and was very entranced by her abilities, but also found her fairly attractive. And so over the years, it went from a strong friendship in the beginning to an actual physical relationship over time. Now, again, just a reminder, this is a twin flame related past life regression. So of course, there's going to be some sort of strong, powerful relationship. And this is it. Her and the Pharaoh have that strong connection. They are twin flames. And they've already, at least had some form of a union. Not formal. She does travel a lot. And, he apparently they only see each other 2 to 3 times a year because she's always off doing her performances at different places. And she's in high demand. And she gets paid well for her services. So, but they both very much look forward to the times where they actually are able to come together, even if it's just for a day or two. So it's not surprising that the moment they get there and get their stuff in their tent, she, hurries up and cleans up and whatever, and makes her way over to the Pharaoh's tent. Now, he was aware that she was coming, so this is no surprise, and he had already been tipped off by somebody that she had arrived. But she was still talking to, there's 4 people apparently that he has a lot of contact with as far as people that he's always consulting with. And that is, the first one they said was the Viceroy, which does basically mean like a vice president or second in charge or whatever. And so that's one person he always had pretty much nearby and was always consulting with. But there were these 3 other men too that, again, they all seemed like advisors. They usually all had the same advice, whatever that was. And I want to say they were kind of like his handlers as far as, bring in their personal opinions and agendas in to try to sway him. But the thing about this Pharaoh was he was actually very independent minded, and he would listen respectfully to what they had to say, and if he didn't agree with it, he didn't do it. You know, he ultimately always made up his own mind, but it was just a part of being the Pharaoh that you had to have these advisors around you at all times. Okay, so and the other thing about this Pharaoh is he was known for his reign was very peaceful. He had good relations with the surrounding countries. He had worked hard for that. The country, Egypt, at itself, was doing very well prosperity-wise while he was, you know, in the ruling position. And what I understand is a lot of people appreciated that about him. In fact, the general people loved him very much. However, like in most countries, even now, there are those, even within the tight top government, that are not wanting peace, that have their own agendas and would love for a little war to start or something, because it would put most likely more money in their own pockets or give them some sort of power that they wouldn't have otherwise. So there was a group that, you know, were even openly, you know, judgmental about him, etc. And being the Pharaoh, you always know that there's somebody that could have you in their crosshairs at any point in time, especially foreign, outside groups. So it's not that he wasn't aware of that, but as we'll find out, his biggest concern was within his own camp. Okay. So, there are these 4 guys in the tent when she comes in, and of course there's guards out there, but they know her and they know that she can go on in. So, as soon as she walks in the door, he's like, well, okay guys, I think we've talked enough, you know, I'll check in with you later on tonight. Everybody head on out. And yeah, as soon as they left, no, they got passionate. I mean, they'd been away from each other at least for a few months already, and at this point, I don't think, well, they really didn't hide. Nobody was sneaking around in the tents trying not to be seen at this point. Everybody kind of knew that they had something going on, so, yeah, whatever. So for the rest of the afternoon, they, you know, enjoyed passionate time together, and, you know, once again, felt that very deep, deep twin flame passion and love, right? If you've ever experienced that, you know, it's way beyond what you can create with a karmic person. Even if you know, have really good times, I'm not saying you can't have anything with a karmic, but it's a different experience when it's a twin flame. Let's just say that. And so, as when they have time to talk, and they're sharing about whatever's been going on in the last few months since they'd seen each other, they had talked in the past about spending more time together, you know, but it never seemed like the right time. Her career was always, you know, on the upswing, and it was obviously important to her to follow her career and make sure she was really, you know, taking it to the level that she wanted to. And of course, he's back, you know, at the palace running the country, and also trying to produce heirs. Not that he necessarily was fully in love with whoever he was doing this with, but, you know, it's a part of being a pharaoh. But she always had his heart. And this time he's sharing, they're starting to explore that conversation again. And he's basically really confessing how much he misses her and how hard it is for him to not be with her, and approach the idea again of, is there any way that you can see coming back and at least living in the city so they could actually have some contact, or more regular contact. Or what he would prefer was that she actually come and live in the palace. And yes, she could be termed, like the royal entertainer or whatever, but everybody would have known that it's, because they had a relationship. And at this point in her career, apparently, she felt like she was in a really good spot, really good place, that she had expanded it quite a bit. And so after a while, they realized, you know what? This actually might work now. It didn't seem to work before. We couldn't find a way, but now, you know what? They're both feeling it. They're both feeling, all the love is there, of course, but yeah. Now they're really seeing this possibility, and it was kind of like a proposal in a way. Obviously, inviting her to live at the palace was a big deal, and she accepted. And once the ceremony was complete the next day, she and her band would be going back to the palace with them to start a whole new life. Not that, granted, okay, it wasn't to leave her life as a dancer. Yeah, and she would perform there in the palace, but they were connected to a very large city, and she could perform all she wanted there. Or, he was very open. If you really feel like you need to go somewhere to do an important show or something, then certainly feel free to do that. He wasn't trying to trap her there forever. But anyway, they were both extremely excited about this idea. And so it was getting later in the evening. It was getting about time where she was going to need to get ready to do a performance that night during the dinner. And then he needed to get ready for that because he's always on display, either sitting up on a throne or for the dinner, probably at just a big table with other people. But when the four came back in, as she was still in there with him, but they came back in at some point, and they told them about the plan. Whoever he was talking to, make sure you make plans with her guys. They're coming back with us. Make it happen, And the four guys kind of went, oh yeah, sure, okay, no problem. We'll arrange this. They go back outside. They're not happy. This is a problem, because they have some plans that we will see in a little bit. And it did not include her, and having her be an extra piece of the puzzle, I guess. So, so they go off and they have to change their plans. So that night, she performs, they have dinner, everything's, and they're, of course, because they're both just elated about their decision to finally move things forward in their relationship, they're in a great mood tonight, really, really feeling good about life. At this point, they're telling me to interject here and just share something about twin flames and how, I'm not saying that all twin flame relationships have gone horribly wrong in the past, but a large number of them have. And why is that? Is it because, the people involved are so terrible themselves that they can't make it work? No. As you'll see in all these different videos that I've done, these are usually pretty good people. The problem is, it's like a moth to a flame. The brighter they get, the more it draws attention from those that don't want to either share the power or allow the twin flames to continue to grow in their own power. So a lot of times when they come together, and I'm talking about now too, not just back in the past, when they come together, there's negative stuff that comes in the space to try to keep them apart. And sometimes at all costs. So right now, what I'm being told is that we are experiencing a huge turning point right now. This coming weekend, like I said, is so powerful, and this past life regression will show more about what I'm talking about. It's time. It's time for that cycle to end right now. I intend for this this past life regression to shift a lot of things on this planet around, well, the dark energies out there causing enough problems that the twin flame connections and the light related energies on the planet, well, they don't have to hide anymore. They don't have, I intend that they won't have to worry anymore about these kinds of interventions, because it's time. The energies are ramping up, especially this month, in the month of January 2020. Oh yeah. Right now it is ramping up big time for the twin flames to come together to a whole nother level, which means the energy, the power on this planet is going to shift significantly. It already is. And we're already approaching a tilting point here, but I think even maybe this weekend may be the tilting point. I'll say in the last past life regression I did for the 111 video, at the end, one of my takeaways from that rewrite was that it was time for the twin flames to stop sacrificing. I use that word specifically. And I meant that in that video as far as, giving up your dreams for somebody else, or, well, taking, in that video, jobs just to survive, even if they really weren't a fit for you or your relationship. Just sacrificing in that way. Well, as I will explain shortly, what I'm getting is, at least a big part of this video is, it's time to stop being sacrificed. So I'll explain more now why I got to that conclusion. All right, so they're excited. They had their dinner. Everybody's happy. It was a great evening. They both retire to the Pharaoh's tent and spend the night together. Again, nobody is even trying to pretend that this isn't happening. It's just known anyway. And so the next day, in the early afternoon, is the main reason why they're all there, this ceremony. And it includes blood sacrifice. Like I said earlier, they bring a goat, and that's the kind of the finale of the whole ceremony is to sacrifice this goat and whatever it is to please the gods. I'm not sure exactly what the ceremony was about, but it has something to do with that. And it was the Pharaoh that actually sacrifices the animal. That's how it goes every year. So this is a known part of the ceremony. And so there's a slight platform up there where he has his main, not really a throne, but his main seat up there. And really all that else that was up there was a small table that had a, I guess maybe a ritual dagger, ceremonial dagger. It was very thin, not a long, huge blade or anything, very thin, really meant to puncture more than actually cut. And so that was sitting up there on a small table, and pretty much that was the main thing up there. And there was a high priest that was a part of it too, that once the Pharaoh sat up there and was prepared, and we were finally getting to this part of it, this high priest comes up onto the platform and starts doing whatever ritual he's doing. And eventually it gets to the point where somebody guides the goat up onto the platform, and the Pharaoh starts standing up. Now, as far as, let me tell you where she's at. She is seated in the front row of where other people are sitting. Like obviously the closer you are, the higher you are probably in rank. And she's one of the honored guests and of course his girlfriend. So she's going to be in that front row. So she's very close by, maybe only 20 or 30 feet away from him, watching the ceremony. So that's where she's at. So, okay. The priest is up there doing whatever he's doing, and eventually it comes to, okay, now the goat's coming up, and the Pharaoh stands up, walks a little bit ahead of the seat he was on, and the priest is kind of directing him what to do. And so he tells the Pharaoh to take the horn of the goat, so, to hold it steady. And then the priest walks over to get the ritual dagger. Okay? So all is going as planned at this point. And now the priest is moving kind of around behind the Pharaoh. And all of a sudden, this priest, like a ninja, stabs the Pharaoh in the back of his right shoulder. Very quickly. It was so fast that I don't think anybody quite saw it happen. He was that good. Find out later that he's like ex-military or whatever, so he's had training in this kind of thing. So that's what he took, that knife, and he just punctured, the back of the Pharaoh. And the Pharaoh kind of like doubles over a little bit with this happening, and all in one movement, the priest starts to go around the front and then stabs him again in the neck before completely going around to the other side of him. And at this point, this one, well, I think ultimately both of them probably would have led to death. But between the two of them, yeah, he was on the ground pretty much immediately. A lot of blood. And the priest, now that, he's down on the ground and he's standing there with the dagger, he yells in whatever language we're talking about the name of another country. Like, basically, this is the country he just did this for. Yay, Now, he's surrounded by security and other people, so, trying to fight his way out of there was not the plan. Actually, he dropped the knife, so he wasn't armed anymore. And so when the security did rush over and grab him, he wasn't a threat anymore. He wasn't trying to get away. It's a mad frenzy on the platform at this point. People are running up to the Pharaoh, and the woman, I never did get names for them, but the woman, his girlfriend, was the first to his body. She ran up there before anybody else could get up there. Now he's still alive at this point, but he's choking on his own blood, and, he's going to die very quickly here. And so she's kind of over him and trying to, do whatever she can to maybe stop the bleeding. But she's the first one there. And then everybody else runs up, including, I think the viceroy was actually standing over to the side and did not make any motion to go over towards the body. But the other three guys were there in the front row, and whoever else was in the front row there, they all kind of jump up. And so there's all these people now hovering over him, and there's yelling, people are yelling, oh my goodness, and people that could actually see what had happened in the audience, and everybody else. It's a frenzy. It's a frenzy. And so couple things happen very quickly here. The guy that they grabbed, who's no longer armed, the main security guy was holding him, and then for no apparent reason, one of the other security people suddenly stabbed that guy several times in the stomach to the point that he dies. Which the main security guy is, what did you do that for? You know, they were going to have to question him and find out what, you know, do all the investigating, and now you just killed him. What were you thinking? So this is happening literally, you know, seconds after he's fallen on the ground and dying. And then at the same time, she's hovered over him. She's trying to, there's all these people surrounding her and him. And one of the last things he sees is her face when she gets stabbed. 3 times. Yes, 3 times in her back. So by the time people peel back a little bit, she's literally, well, both of them are dying in that same moment. And everybody's like, what happened to her? What happened? Who did that? Nobody knew. Well, except the people that knew, that were behind it. But as far as the rest of the people, nobody could see. No, there were too many people, too many bodies in the way. Nobody saw what happened to her. So now both of them are literally dying within, you know, seconds of each other. And the guy that did it is dead now too, so there's no way to find out who was behind him doing that. Well, I'm being told within about 10 minutes of that, the headdress that the pharaoh had been wearing was removed from his head and placed on the viceroy's head as he was sworn in as the new pharaoh, right there on that same stage. And the bodies hadn't really even been moved yet, or, you know, but it was important to have that be seen by all the masses, and to know and be able to tell the people out there in the country, you know, who the new pharaoh is. It was very important for people to see that, apparently. And then he told them all to go home. Nothing more to see here. We'll take care of this. Now his word was what had to be followed. So yeah, everybody started clearing out their tents and moving out very quickly, because it was clear that they wanted to tidy this up and be gone. You know. And what I can say as far as the bodies, they had a very unceremonious burial there. Now, I have looked up to see how far back that they think that kings had been buried, or kings, pharaohs, whatever, had been buried there. They guesstimate, you know, of course this is all theory. They think that the first ones were buried there about 900 something BC. So we're talking about 1,000 years earlier. But what I'll tell you, because this is what they told me, this really was the very first pharaoh buried there. But it sure wasn't to honor him. That was an assassination that was created from within. His own camp. Killed by his own men, basically. And she, unfortunately, what I was told is once they realized how close they were, and now they're going to have to take her back with all that stuff. It was not the original plan to have her killed at the same time, but, well, things are getting messy, and we don't want to have any loose ends, basically. And what if she knows some stuff? What if he told her things and that somehow this could be brought back to them somehow? So, had to go. Now, what I might not have made clear is these are the original 4 people that were in that tent that were behind this, including the guy that was a soldier that stabbed the other guy. He was not a high-level part of it, but he was brought into that to make sure that that guy was killed. But those 4 people were the main obvious conspirators anyway in that overall group. So, what I was told while I was doing this past life regression was that these same souls actually were John F. Kennedy, and Marilyn Monroe. So a lot of the same dynamics were going on for that couple in not so long ago, right? And that it was an inside job. And yeah, there's all sorts of conspiracy theories about it, but ultimately I really got that this was a very much a layover and a repeat of this earlier timeline. So if you know the story about them or you have your ideas about them, it's a similar dynamic. Let's just say that. Don't know. Let me see. I don't think there's anything left to really show the details about that. They're buried. There's no marker at all for where they buried them. They made it, cleared out the dirt as if you couldn't tell where they were buried, really, after they did it. And that's how they wanted it. They didn't want anybody to know where they were. They didn't want anybody to know anything. This was like, this is done. We're moving on. And that was it. So they are still, their bodies, or what's left of them, are still there. Somewhere in the Valley of the Kings. No, they're not in some ornate tomb, by any means. They were not buried with any riches. Nope. So, I think that's the highlights anyway. So what I'll do now is share with you what I do once I look at a past life regression is I ask my guides to show me where in the timeline could we intervene and do something a little different that would have a better outcome. And what they showed me was, going back to when the Pharaoh and the woman were in the tent together, and they had just shared with the 4 guys. The plan was, get her guys lined up because they're all coming back with us. So again, the guys were like, "Oh, okay, sure, whatever you want, sir," acting at least semi-supportive of it. The moment they walk out the flap of the tent, their faces change. Now, when I do my rewrites, when they show me where there is to intervene, a lot of times they don't show me everything in the beginning. They save extra pieces for now. And what I didn't see or wasn't aware of in the beginning was that his main security person, his head security person, was standing right outside the tent, guarding security, right? He was standing right there. And he's very observant. He's the head security person, so that means he's always on alert for anything fishy, right? And he's been the head security person for a long time too, so he's good at what he does, and he is very loyal to the Pharaoh. And he noticed, one, their physical, facial expressions changing the moment the flap closed, but he also heard them whispering, and he heard, "We have to change the plan." What's that mean? Right? So, as soon as the guys are, walking away, he slips into the tent and says, "Sir, now, please tell me, what did you just share with those guys? Something's going on. I have a feeling. I have a feeling something's up. What did you tell him? And so, don't worry about it. You worry too much. You're always worried something's going on. Well, that's my job, sir. But what did you tell him? So, yeah, we told him all this. They seemed fine with it. Don't worry about it. He's like, oh, sir, I don't know. I heard him say plan. I don't like the look on their face. Something's up, sir, please. Just allow me to go follow them and listen in to see if I can get anything. Even if it's just to prove that I'm wrong, And in the first version, the Pharaoh, he just said, don't worry about it. I'm sure it's nothing. Because he really wasn't worried about it. He'd not realized the level of danger he was in. But in the rewrite, I think the security guard was a bit more persistent in, requesting this ability to go check things out. Where the Pharaoh finally said, if it'll make you happy, or put your mind at ease, go ahead. Just go ahead. Yeah, do whatever you need to do. Which he did. He immediately followed them back to one of their tents. And he kind of snuck around to whatever side he could hear the best from. And he overheard at least parts of the plan. Especially the part that they were now having a plan about her. What are they going to do with her? So he was able to hear them discussing how, okay, now, after the guy stabs the Pharaoh and he's down, what should we do? Should we do this with her? He's hearing the whole plan. And that obviously even the priest is in on it. So the moment he feels like he's got all the information he needs, he is back at the Pharaoh's tent. And at this point, especially because the lady's going to be living anyway with him, she's just sitting there while they're discussing this. And of course she's concerned. Obviously her name is now in the ring too, but she obviously loves the Pharaoh and doesn't want anything to happen there. So the one thing that the Pharaoh knows about the security guy is he does not lie. If this is what he said he heard, then he takes it as truth. And what are we going to do about this? So the next day they show me, they're up on the platform. They're just letting things unfold, however they unfold here. And the Pharaoh comes up and sits down on his seat next to the dagger thing, and get to the point where here comes the goat. And the high priest comes up. He's starting whatever he's starting. And then the Pharaoh reaches over and grabs that dagger and stands up. And at that moment, all the security that is now overloaded even more grabs the priest, the viceroy, and the other three guys. And the Pharaoh stands there and announces that a plot, an assassination plot has been uncovered, that these 4 men are guilty of treason and will be tried or whatever they do. They weren't going to kill them right there or anything. They were going to go back and do whatever justice system they had in place. But they were exposed fully for their intention. So, trying to see if they did anything with the goat after that, because they were there for a ritual. Okay, now what I'm seeing is, yes, they do take those 4 away. And because this is not the first rodeo for the Pharaoh as far as sacrificing the goat, he is able to complete it on his own. And he pretty much knows most of the words and all that good stuff. So he's able to do it. And they finish that ceremony. Now, just because they're at some ceremony does not mean right afterwards they didn't go back and interrogate those 4 guys. Now, the viceroy wouldn't say anything, but one of those 3 sang like a canary. He outed, well, that other guy that was willing to stab and be a part of that. And there were probably a few other lesser known or worrisome people in the group, but what they really wanted to know was who was directing them. Because if they're top level ranking people, it wasn't just them. They were being encouraged to do this. And who were they being encouraged by? I think that's what we all want to know in this day and age too. Who's really pulling the strings? Well, in this situation, there was a priest, well, I don't know if priest is the right word, a secret society, maybe a priest. I think there was a spiritual component to it. And I believe this is the earliest stages of possibly the secret societies that we know today that are, well, do these kinds of things, assassinate people, pull strings behind the curtains. But this was the early stages of them. Well, thank you, Canary, because they were able to be tracked down. And yes, they absolutely were behind the assassination plot, and they were dealt with. So Egypt, at least at that time, was cleansed of at least its most negative group. So the Pharaoh's desire to keep peace is continuing, and it's going to get even better now that there's not all this interference. By the way, the guy with the guy that stabbed him in the high priest, he was not a high priest, and he was not from any of those other nations. That whatever nation he said, I'm doing this for that nation. No, that was some inside guy. Just once again, another, so everybody would blame it on whatever country it was and be more willing to go to war. That's what that was about. So no, he was just an inside person that was, playing a role. Now, what I do understand though is that they assured him that, he'd be arrested, yes, but we'll make sure you get off. I mean, don't worry about it. Just drop that knife. That way they won't try to hurt you. And, don't worry about it. We'll take care of you. Oh, they took care of him all right. They're the ones that set up his murder. They got that guy to stab him. No, these people have no scruples. They have no concern. Life, death, whatever, as long as it serves them, right? Well, what I can say is that's about to be over in that lifetime, because I'm about to put this into place and rewrite the timelines. And this will be nearly 4,000 years of at least one of the most negative secret societies that have been on this planet. They won't have the power. They won't ever really be able to have the power that they did back then. And that's big. We'll have 4,000 years of not having them around. And that tilts, once again, the scales of power on this planet. And what I'm getting is, it's time. It's time for these really nasty, dark energies to be revealed. Taking the masks off, showing what they're truly about, and for their puppets that are willing to play that game with them, yes, those people need to be exposed as well. It's just time for these lies to be called what they are. Lies and deceit. It's time for people to really know. Which also shows you who the true heroes are in the process. Major shift in energy. So I'm feeling the energy starting to build already behind this. This is a big one, okay? This is like I want to say maybe the finale of those 3 days that I talked about. It's all leading up to this. So this is the final push. And on the other side of all this, we'll go sailing into the rest of January at a high velocity. So this is big. It's time, like I said earlier, no more sacrifices. No more people being sacrificed physically. No more of that. It's time to expose the ones that are behind that kind of behavior and deal with them effectively so they no longer can do that. And it's time for, yes, the twin flames. The ones that are intending to come together and do amazing, powerful things on this planet. It's time for them to rise. It's time for them to be visible. It's time for them to come together completely and build things together, because there's no longer going to be this threat that has constantly taken them apart in many ways. And yes, by death. So this isn't just going to heal the lifetime that I was just talking about. This is going to be another level of healing for the JFK life. And I've done healings on that before, and this is going to be another level. No more fallen kings. In fact, I did look up when I realized the JFK connection, and I seem to have remembered something written somewhere, the idea that was actually maybe an Egyptian sacrifice kind of thing that they did in the way he was killed. And sure enough, it is called, and it's supposed to be connected to secret societies. It's called the killing of the king. And the first, at least what I read, I didn't do a lot of research, there might be conflicting information out there, but I'm just based on what I saw. The first time that has ever been recorded was back in King Solomon's time. That it really was a ritual even then. Which again, I think was about 1,000 years later than this timeline, but people are just guessing. I guarantee you this has been around at least 4,000 years, right? Because that's pretty much what they were doing. Whether they use that term or not, it was purposely done in public. It was purposely done to be a spectacle. They could have stabbed him in the back at any point. Why wait till then? Why wait till all those people were there? Because there's a bigger message behind it. To keep people in fear. And to show that there's something bigger behind the scenes that they should be fearful of. Well, I'm telling you right now, what we're about to do, we don't need to be afraid anymore. This may even be the tilting point right here. So, okay. I'm about to officially change the timeline. I feel like the energy is building up here a little bit. It's going to shift everything. You may feel it no matter what time you end up watching this video. No more sacrifices, no more fallen kings. No more. And I am changing that right now. So that timeline is flipping to the new version. The old one does not exist anymore. The new version is in place. And so we've got 4,000 years worth of lifetimes, not only for those specific souls, but all the energy that was generated for the dark out of all of that is now, well, it's flipping to the light. 4,000 years worth. And this absolutely impacts other parts of the world. I mean, it's all interconnected. Things are being revealed this week even. I know it. This is leading up to some pretty big reveals about who's really behind a lot of these bad things that are happening right now. Okay, now I'm starting to feel it come into this timeline. It's coming in. That energy is shifting. It's shifting. It's shifting. I'm hearing justice is served. Woo, I'm feeling it now. Yeah, that energy is coming through strong. Justice is served. For so long, and way more than 4,000 years, these kinds of dark energies have plagued twin flames trying to come together, people trying to create positive things. It's finally tilted the other direction now. This is why things are finally going to come to light, because it can. Because they don't have the power to stop it anymore. Okay, there's another wave right there. It's time. It's time for things to come to light. It's time for people. It's time for the twin flames, the divine masculines and divine feminines to finally unify, because, again, it puts out so much light when that happens. It wasn't really safe. It wasn't safe yet. As much as we all wanted to be together, we had to get to this point of no return, really, where the dark energies on this planet just can't hold on anymore. And they are going to fall very quickly now. And now that that darkness is fading, our light can rise. Our relationships can solidify. We can finally start to come together without fear. We've come together before with fear, and a lot of times there was good reason for that fear, because these kinds of things tended to happen. No, not anymore. We have 4,000 years now of keeping the balances the other way. They have nothing, no foothold anymore is what I'm being told right now. It's gone. They're going to crumble very quickly now. People are going to sing like canaries. Yeah, there's going to be a lot of reveals in the near future, so no more sacrifices. It's time to come together fully with your twin flame, whether you know them already or not. You can reach out to them at various levels, even spiritually if that's all you have. Call them to you. It's safe now. It's time to get started. Still feel that energy. It's like a steady stream. It's going out to the world. It's going to shift whatever's happening this weekend. It's going to give it another boost in a positive way. There are major things happening on this planet, including the twin flames coming together at a whole nother level right now. So I realize it's now about at the hour point of this recording, so if you're still with me, thank you so much for listening and being willing to go along with this ride. These really are truly humongous healings for the planet, and I'm so really in touch right now with my gratitude to have this platform to be able to share this with you in the now, even, and knowing that those of you that are called to these are ready to hear this message. And I really do hope that you all experience a boost in your relationship with whoever your other person is. Follow your heart. That'll lead you to him, for sure. All right. That's it for now. Not sure when my next post will be. I'm Right now I seem to be called to do them as major astrological events are coming in, and there will be some later in the month. So you will see me again at some point this month, and until then, peace and joy. Take care.